Welcome to Valley Newsline for the week of April 22nd, 2007. Hello, I'm your host, Ron Whitlock. Three mayors: Leo Montalvo, former mayor, City of McAllen; John David Franz, city mayor, City of Hidalgo; and Othel Brand Sr., former mayor, City of McAllen for over 20 years. All three mayors opposed to the takeover of the Hidalgo County Water Control and Improvement District number 3 by the City of McAllen. On the program, Othel Brand Sr., and talk about that and to respond to comments made on this program earlier by the current mayor, City of McAllen, Richard Cortez. We'll have that in the last two segments of the program, so stay tuned. First of all, we want to take you to the state capitol. As you know, we have been covering on this program for some time now the situation regarding CHIP, the Children's Health Insurance Program. Over $300 million estimated comes to the border region, predominantly to Hidalgo, Starr, Cameron, and Willacy counties to serve the needs not only of children here, of working parents, but also to the hospitals, doctors who get those dollars to provide that care. Also going to potentially take away from the possibility of money being taken out of the Indian Care County funds, which is also provided by money out of the state capitol in Austin. Either way, children's health insurance, very important to every person who lives here in Greater South Texas. The Texas area and the Valley area may have a champion in the form of Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst, champion to work with Senators Lucio Zaffirini and Nina Osa, because Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst telling you and I during our interview on the Senate floor at the state capitol that I think, Dewhurst that is, that the most productive thing is to look to see if we can come up with a system where we have a continuous coverage for those who are eligible under our qualifications. Lieutenant Governor tells you and I, the last part of this segment, so stay tuned, I support all children eligible for the CHIP program to be covered by the CHIP program. First of all, we talked also at the Capitol prior to our interview on the Senate floor with Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst. Jose Rodriguez from El Paso, county attorney there, a PSJA graduate and Valley native, by the way, chairman of the Health Committee of the Texas Border Coalition. We talked to him about CHIP. Here's what he had to say.
Well, Ron, we all pay for it one way or the other. I mean, you and I as taxpayers end up paying a big part of the bill for the emergency room use. The employers do, as you point out, and others. We have to be much more smarter about how we allocate our limited resources for health care. We want people to be covered. We want people to have insurance coverage. And yesterday I testified in one of the bills here that would promote a regional health program so that counties could come together and establish a health care plan for small employer employees. This is the whole notion of what they call three-share, having the government, having the employer, and having the employee all share in the cost of health insurance coverage. We've got to find ways of allocating our dollars smartly so that we can get the most for bang for the buck, as they say, as opposed to policies that are irrational, where you throw children off the CHIP program rolls and have them end up in our emergency rooms that we just described, and costing us ultimately much more in the long run. I mean, we got to stop that. The bottom line is this: if you don't have health programs that provide access to families, you're not going to have a healthy workforce. If you don't have a healthy workforce, how can Texas and the Valley, for example, compete in the global economy without healthy workers? It doesn't make any sense to me. So we just need to look at this from the perspective that we want to provide access to everyone who needs it, whether they got money or not.
Texas Governor Rick Perry told an audience in New Braunfels recently, Valley Newsline cameras were there, explained to that audience that the future of Texas is in its human resources. And then immediately after those comments, we talked to him about CHIP, and he's still opposed to CHIP.
Well, that's irrational to me, frankly. It's irrational. I mean, Steve Murdoch, the state demographer, has told the state legislature for years now that the future of Texas lies in the border. Why? Because the border has the largest population of young people, and it has the largest growing population of young people at the same time that the rest of the state and the rest of the country is aging, like people like me, baby boomers. And so the state is going to rely on this young workforce for its future. And if they're not educated, if they're not healthy because we don't give them access to health care, if we don't give them opportunities, then how can he claim that Texas is able to compete? I mean, it's just not possible.
We explained to Mr. Rodriguez at the state capitol that we had interviewed Governor Rick Perry recently, and Perry told us that he prefers keeping the period of eligibility for the Children's Health Insurance Program at 6 months. The House has now passed legislation restoring CHIP eligibility to 12 months. Meanwhile, many CHIP supporters tell us that a 12-month eligibility period is crucial if more children are to be signed up for the popular low-cost insurance program. During a news conference in New Braunfels, I pointed out to Governor Perry that not only is it an humanitarian issue, but that emergency rooms here in the Rio Grande Valley are filling up, for waiting times growing in part because children without health insurance now are using hospitals as their primary health care provider, and that's causing wait times to escalate from 6 hours or more at McAllen's hospitals in particular. Also at the Capitol, we talked to Senator Eliot Shapleigh, Democrat from El Paso. He tells you and I that they are rationing by frustration by having the eligibility period being re-enrolled every 6 months. Hear those comments.
Well, first of all, those thousands of children came off the CHIP rolls because of budget cuts. Mean-spirited Republicans cut those budgets in 2003, and 200,000 kids were cut immediately through rule changes and budget cuts. So let's be clear about where that came from. Why do they insist that every 6 months people fill out a lengthy form and reapply for something they just applied for? They want to ration by frustration. And where has this most affected the people of the state of Texas and the families and the children? Right there in the Rio Grande Valley. You lost more children from CHIP and Medicaid because of incompetence at Accenture, because of the Republican budget cuts of 2003, and because of these changes to the rules that make our citizens so frustrated they quit applying to the state of Texas to get children's health insurance. Try picking up the phone sometime and calling one of these agencies and asking how you can get the application and fill it out. It will take you not minutes, but dozens of minutes to get a response. Why? Because at the end of the day, it's about not covering kids with health insurance. It's about tax cuts. Tax cuts to wealthier Texans is what's really driving that decision.
Finally now, we go to the Senate floor of the State House in Austin, where we talk to Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst about the CHIP enrollment program. We also read from a letter written by Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst to the Dallas Interfaith Group, explaining that he supports CHIP. Here's that interview with Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst.
I support all children eligible for the CHIP program to be covered by the CHIP program. So I think the most productive is to look and see if we can come up with a system where we've got continuous coverage for those that are eligible under our guidelines.
Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst is now coming on board. He's distancing himself from Texas Governor Rick Perry and other Republican leadership in the state capitol, many of whom supported the 6-month eligibility re-enrollment process of all these children, which has in effect caused up to 200,000, according to Aaron Pena and Ryan Guillen, to have fallen off the CHIP rolls by virtue of having to re-enroll and re-enroll and re-enroll. Your comments about what Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst is now trying to effect to our 3 senators, Zaffarini, Lucio, and Hinojosa, to maybe make this enrollment process an ongoing, continuous enrollment. What do you think about it?
Well, I'm glad they have the responsibility. It's a tremendous responsibility. The need must be fulfilled. And I wholeheartedly agree with supporting these families, low-income families particularly, their children in education and health care, the learning process, skill acquisition as they grow up, better education, a better life. We've supported those things all my life, and we still support them.
Now, you were on the school board in the City of McAllen before you got on the city council, even before you became mayor. You gave the first $50,000 to create the Boys and Girls Clubs in the City of McAllen. You've been traditionally a supporter of the impoverished, many of those working for you at Griffin and Brand, and their families, low income to a degree, because you had one employee. Some cases the wife stayed at home in those old days. Now, on that basis, even though you have traditionally been a Republican, you've got the friendship of the President of the United States, former Governor George Bush. You've been a supporter of many Republican candidates in federal and state office, yet you're somewhat of a moderate Republican because you think that the poor and impoverished in South Texas need to be taken care of.
They need to be educated and to acquire marketable skills. That will enable them to earn a living, and then they need a moral standard and a faith that will enable them to live a life. This is basically my creed.
Do you get offended and somewhat upset with your Republican friends in not only Austin but the nation's capital when they don't seem to understand that the Valley has its needs, it has its educational opportunities and challenges, it has its health care opportunities and challenges, but these young people coming out of South Texas, spreading across the entire state, as they move northward now to get other jobs, they are the future of the Lone Star State.
Well, you know, that's a product of budget battles and insufficient money, overspending. We're grossly overspending. And the loss of the dollar in international convertibility has been tremendous. Went from about $1.15 to 1 to the euro dollar to 75 cents today. And all that's a part of our economic problems. But we're overspending, just overspending, living beyond our means.
Now, we know we've got you here primarily to talk about the desire on the part of the City of McAllen and a mayor currently sitting in your old office, that Richard Cortez, wanting to take over the water district where you and Leo Montalvo serve. That's Hidalgo County Water Control and Improvement District number 3. Mayor Richard Cortez, on a recent program, came forward in front of this camera and this audience to explain that he has sent letters, he being the City of McAllen, to the Hidalgo County Water Control and Improvement District number 3, on which you serve as a board member. Your son, Otha Brand Jr., serves as chairman. Leo Montalvo, former mayor of City of McAllen, also serves. Here's what Mayor Cortez said.
If Mayor Montalvo, Mayor Brand, and the board of directors of the Water District number 3 have an agreement that they would like for us to consider, put it in writing, send it to us, and I can tell you that we would look at it critically, we would look at it and dissect it and give them a response.
He explains that he's of the opinion that if you and Leo, he directs it primarily to you, former mayor, would respond to one of their epistles, one of their documents, and respond in writing back to them, that they would love to take a look at whatever you suggest as it relates to the potential takeover of your water district by the City of McAllen. Your response to Mayor Cortez?
Well, their initial proposal, they take over our financial management and move our bookkeeping system downtown, and the utility board takes that. We meet once a year as a board. Well, that's an insult. It's been that over and over again. My son had an appointment to meet with the mayor and the city manager, the utility board manager. No one showed up except the utility board manager. His first question, how do you justify living, speaking as a water board?
Continue to exist.
Yeah, that's virtually it. I paraphrase it just a little bit, but not much. But it's been the attitude of the city. All of us have gone on with an idea there's something wrong that needs correction. We get down there, we find the wrong is not, the city has never failed, not one day has it ever failed to have water from number 3 we've never run out of water. I did not have any trouble.
But Mayor Cortez's position is, even though there obviously is animosity and your water board does not feel it's been dealt with fairly and equitably.
Of course it hasn't.
The fact that he's making here, and the statement he's making on this camera to this audience, is that your board has never actually made a change to that document and sent it back to City Hall.
You know, we've made suggestions through the city manager, and my son went down for a meeting to work on the details. They didn't meet with him. Well, how do you accept that? You want to keep running back down there to City Hall? Well, I think that we're more competent than they are. I think on the basis of experience. I've served on the utility board as well as all the city elective boards virtually. And our level of competence and our performance and our generosity to the city have been tremendous.
When you say our, you're talking about
I'm
the
talking
Hidalgo
about
County
the
Water Control
Water
Improvement
District number 3. The only district in the city to give any water to the city, and we gave them over half of our ag water. That converted into 5,000 acre feet worth about $10 million now. Then while I was mayor, we bought 11,250 feet of water, municipal water at a very reasonable price. But anyway, we have a contract that...
was there ever a time, Mayor, when you were mayor of the city of McAllen, that you had a desire on your own to take over this water district?
No, I said eventually we will outgrow the water district, but we're not there yet. We're not there by any stretch of the imagination.
You're suggesting the farmers in the meantime need to be protected?
Well, our primary job is to pump municipal water, and we have a contract with the city. The reason we pump so much, we must pump it when they present it to us for pumping. We have a contract. Neither side can break it. It must be mutually broken. So when they presented us with the 11,250 feet to pump, well, that inflated us far beyond proper relationships. But we did it. We did it at a very low price. McAllen's had the lowest water in the valley, and the valley's had the lowest water in the United States.
Now, Mayor, Dick Moore has been asked to run for your water board in years past. Dick Mouchel has been asked to run. Bill Mouchel.
Bill Mouchel, right.
Bill Mouchel has been asked to serve by the city, been asked to run by the city in order to take over the water board. Otherbrand Jr., your son, has been asked to run for the water board, became chairman on the same basis, City of McAllen wanting to take over the water board. Former Mayor Leo Montalvo asked by the City of McAllen to run, be on the water board in order to take over the water board in behalf of the City of McAllen. Yet everyone who has gone on this board, been elected by the people, City of McAllen,
No,
your water
the
district,
water district
all within that water district's parameters,
yeah.
all of those, once they got on the board, have determined they no longer thought it was a good idea for the City of McAllen to take over the water district. What has transpired with all of these individuals that the city is complaining about in testimony at the state senate, with all these citizens of McAllen who've been asked to go and run and be elected to this water board, but yet once they get there, they see and make and flip basically and decide that they are no longer in support of the City of McAllen taking over the Hidalgo County Water Control Improvement District number 3.
Well, it's because for me the realization that we do have enough farmers to stay in business, and we have domestic customers which we are required by law to serve. And our level of competency, I put Leo and I and my son and my board up against a whole city commission, and you make the comparison in experience and knowledge and background. But the thing that turns a board member against the city is the arrogant attitude. Just like they wanted us to meet once a year. That's a good start, isn't it? We're duly elected, duly constituted by the state of Texas. Oh, but you don't have enough people running. Well, get some people out to run. Get some of your own out to run. But there's not much glamour in water. But it's one of the most essential needs of mankind. And we do a good job. Contrary to what they said at the Senate, well, you know, they look ridiculous at the House hearing. One of them was asked, why do you want the water district? Well, it's our destiny. You believe that? They look like they didn't look good. Let's put it that way. So
now,
when
Mayor Richard Cortez told you on this program recently that why not change 5 board members from your board, and the 5 board members now sitting on the McAllen Public Utility Board. Here's what the mayor said. How does this make you feel having 2 former mayors in opposition to what you're trying to accomplish? And are you confused about it in any way?
The problem that I have with both of them is that I asked both of them the same question. What are your concerns with simply substituting you 5 board members with 5 board members of the PUB? Everything else stays the same. What are your concerns with substituting 5 board members right now with other 5 board members that are elected by more than 5,000 people, the citizens of McAllen, as the board members are elected by less than 100. Tell me what's wrong with that. Help me understand why you think that's wrong, and I will back off. I have not received an answer from either one of them why that's wrong. Well, if they can't answer a simple question of what's the difference between having this 5 board members and this 5 board members, then I really question what is the essence of their dispute with us as to why it doesn't make any sense. So yes, I'm confused as to why they're opposed to this.
Why not exchange your board of 5 board members elected with 100 or muscle maintenance voters for the in-pub board members who are sometimes elected in the area of 5,000 voters in that range?
We don't have a lot of people in our district. We're more a business district. We're a mile wide and 10 streets in the center. So we don't have the population. You get 140 or 50 like the last time. It's actually had an election, but all the elections have been uncontested for several years. But I would say, to answer his question, I'm going to answer his position. Why shouldn't we take their jobs? I believe we can do a better job than they're doing. How do you like that for an answer? That's the truth. That's a ridiculous question to ask reasonable people.
How difficult is it to run a water district? There are some who have the opinion that all the water district has to do is turn on the pump to the river, go open a gate, and Bowie Reservoir will fill up with water.
Well, everything leaks. There's a potential leaker. But we do have a well-run
board. Is it more complicated than that to run a water district?
No, it is not a complicated operation if you have any basic knowledge that water runs downhill and out through holes. But we have a state-of-the-art pumping system built exclusively to pump for the city at their request and contract. We have half our district underground, and we'll get the other half underground one way or the other to eliminate the evaporation and the transportation loss. And we have never failed that city, and we've been generous beyond belief. Not another district of the 5 in the city. We're not the largest district. The largest district, number 10. Never done anything for them. But they don't want number 10 because they don't have a pumping station, and they don't have the right-of-way they need for a road, but we have offered that to them. There's everything that they complained about before the Senate, fabrications. We are not incompetent. We're not violators of the tax laws. We don't have illegal elections. We don't run a slovenly operation. We run a neat, clean operation. And I defy them to meet me in public with the same verbiage they used at the Senate. We'll have a good debate.
Till next Sunday, adios.